All right, so we are live and you'll be able to see comments and stuff too. So I have the little eyeballs. I try to hopefully get at least 3 to 5 before I put on that video because it's going to start pinging everyone that I just went live here in a minute. But no, this thing is it's cute.
It's cool, right? I like the visual.
And you can create your own. That's really what I liked about it was branding, because with Zoom, of course, you can't do all those other things without it looking kind of crazy sometimes. And it was just like, oh, where else can you get it? I have a feeling, because let me kind of open up the other window. We should already hit. Okay, we got 2 eyes. I was gonna say we should already have hit 5. So I'm gonna open it up on the other side.
Yeah, because it's not quite 2, almost though.
All right. I'm gonna look at it here too. Oh, 4. Come on, one more, y'all. One more. One more, and then I'll start it. And then I need to refresh it on here. Minority. I'm trying to do the refresh version just to see if I could see it in the group. There we go. So I'm going to start it with this little countdown. All right, there's one more. All right, welcome everyone. Happy Friday, TGIF. I see that you guys are tuned in, and so thank you. I see a couple of you guys tuned back out. So I am honored to have as a special guest today to speak to us about what it is she does, who it is she is, if that even made that kind of came out. But Miss Shaquana Teasley, thank you for being here. I'm going to let you do your introduction. And go ahead.
Thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shaquana Teasley. I'm known in the industry as Shaq. I do a wide range of things, particularly around the areas of global logistics and international trade. I have been in the industry for approximately 17 years. I started my career in domestic logistics and eventually moved my career further to global logistics. And now I sit primarily in the space of international trade, where I am organizing the trading of goods between our country and the US and other countries abroad. That's just a little bit about who I am.
So I've shared that on the comments link, so you guys can be pulling her up as well. I know I shared that in the group too. And so I know that that's very impressive and everything, but I'm going to ask for your help. You're going to have to break it down for us. Tell it is in everyday terms. What is it that you do?
Sure, I can do that. And I can help people give an idea of how you can get here, or how I got here at least. So originally I went to school to be a social worker, and I thought I would actually be a social worker. But I relocated from the state of New York. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and I moved to the Atlanta metropolitan area. And I quickly realized that with the difference in pay scale and responsibilities, that may not be the career for me. After going to school, I just felt like, now what do I do? I need a whole new career. So I took a temporary position at a trucking company, which was Yellow Freight. If anyone's familiar with them, I think they're now formally known as Yellow Roadway, because they acquired Roadway many years ago. While being there, originally they asked me to be a front desk clerk, which That's really not my personality, so it was very odd. However, it did lead to me working in the back office and learning international documents. So I just started doing their freight documents, so bill of ladings, freight bills, packing lists, picking plaque documents, and then documents that are unique to countries in which some of this freight was moving, because they were not only a domestic trucker, they were doing freight forwarding services as well to the Caribbean.
Oh, wow.
So I want to just say, don't ever knock documentation, because every field on a box gives you some insight into why it's required. And if you know why a particular item is required on a document, it gives you more information onto what area you can focus on for your own specialty. I worked there for over a year. I was a temporary employee, very different than what I was used to in the corporate environment, but it was a very good stepping stone. I got a good mentor there. He began to help me understand other areas within global logistics that I could possibly be interested in, but definitely qualified for. I did a little dispatching while I was there, and I didn't really like that at all. It just wasn't my thing. I didn't enjoy it. It just wasn't something I really was interested in, but I did get some knowledge and expertise and experience in that area, but I didn't do it for long, and it just wasn't something I was interested in. I eventually moved on to a career at a chemical company in Atlanta, and they had a global footprint. So they had offices in a lot of different countries, and they were actually manufacturing chemicals in other countries and then importing them into this country. In that role, I was the logistics manager over time. And what I was capable of learning was how to negotiate freight contracts with both domestic truckers, international freight forwarders, air and ocean carriers, to now make sure that I can have hazardous chemicals moved around the world. So I am certified in hazmat, but I've never driven a truck. So I don't drive, but I'm certified in hazmat in the area of documentation, placarding. I can oversee dangerous good documents and approve them so that boxes are packaged properly and the correct dangerous goods and hazmat markings are on those boxes. And then of course that's what'll go either on a vessel or of course go via air. I can do the same thing for totes, for super sacks, whatever it is you need to package your good in. So I can oversee the packaging and the documents for any mode of transportation globally.
Wow.
And that's a great career for anyone that's interested in that. Feel free to contact me if you're interested in that. I do have instructors in my course that teach that. They don't certify, but they do teach so that you're prepared for certification course. Mm-hmm. I also work with other companies that are heavily involved in doing that if someone is interested in making a career out of that, because that is a great career. It's a great career to do either as an employee or as a independent contractor or as an entrepreneur as well. Being there taught me trade lanes, so I began to understand logistically how to move freight around the world, whether it be a container or a box. It just gave me a lot of insight. I was able to learn different cultures at that time, what other cultures expect, how they want to be treated, what's disrespectful for their culture, what they like to eat, what environment they feel most comfortable. And that was a very good lesson for me, because coming from where I came from, Brooklyn, New York, which New York within itself is very diverse, but where I grew up, it really wasn't. Mm-hmm. So it gave me a lot of perspective into different cultures and how to make other cultures welcome. And in addition to that, it put me in a position where I can learn from these other countries in regard to how you import and export goods. So I worked in logistics for a few years, maybe 5 or 6, 7 years or so. And then I met a woman that worked for the company, was newly hired to the organization, and she offered to teach me the regulations behind the movements. So immediately I thought that meant just DOT. And I was like, oh, I guess I can understand DOT regulations, sure. But it was way more than that. What she taught me was DOT regulations, IATA regulations, which is the equivalent for air, and then IMDG, which is the equivalent for ocean. Oh, wow. So once I learned that, she began to teach me U.S. customs regulations. What is the law that allows you to import goods into this country? How do we determine how taxes or duties are paid when something is imported? Mm-hmm. And then once I learned the U.S. customs regulations, you began to teach me other countries. And that became a little more easier to do because once I was actually doing it because we were trading goods with other countries, it was pretty simple. And I'll give you an example of that. The chemical company I was working for, they were one of the products they was making was pool chemicals. So they had the raw material, which is pretty much the active ingredient, which is chlorine. And
Okay.
it was being manufactured in China. They were manufacturing it in China. And we needed that active ingredient here to now be put into mass production to make the finished good, which is the actual chlorine that can go into the pool.
Hmm.
So I had to work with the China team to make sure that we was meeting production schedules. It was being packaged properly. The hazmat was being certified to go over the ocean or air. And then I would logistically advise them on the best mode of transportation and routing. So oftentimes in the domestic arena, people are very heavily concentrated on routing and trade lanes domestically, but that skill is transferable. So if you can understand trade lanes domestic, you can certainly understand them internationally. So there was times where I would say, hey, let's not take the Panama Canal. We need to have a vessel that's going to go through this ocean, this canal. We were dealing with pirates and pirates taking over our ships. That's very difficult to deal with, just by the way. And it's very real. It's not a
Not
show.
just TV.
It's not a
Okay.
show. It's
Oh,
not a
wow.
show. It's not a movie. It's very real. And they're usually after humanitarian goods, things that are like drinking water, purification, paper plate, paper towels, things like that.
Hmm.
Medicines, pharmaceutical goods, things like that. And it's very scary. I'll say that
Oh, wow.
because it's dangerous. Pirates come on your ship. It is very scary.
It's real.
It's very real, and it's extremely expensive. And depending on where your cargo has to go in these trade lanes can be a huge issue for insurance. Insurance may say, whoa, you're going through that area.
That's a no-doubt.
High area of pirate, and we don't know about that. Or that may be a high area in risk to terrorism. We don't really want to insure that cargo. Or in general, because the cargo is hazardous, we may not want to insure that either, or we want to make you pay an additional premium or a rider. So it was very complicated in that regard. And that was only because of the type of product it is. That doesn't mean that the industry is complicated. It means that that type of cargo necessarily was somewhat complicated to learn for a chemical company. But I was very fortunate because I was surrounded by chemists that would help me understand what exactly this stuff is. So that was good for me. In addition to that, I began to work with other countries to make sure that we were not only compliant with U.S. law, but we were compliant with the law in which we were exporting goods. So we would bring in this chemical, which is called calcium hypochlorite, which is just chlorine. We would bring them in, we would put them on large vessels, sometimes 40-foot containers, 20-foot containers, oftentimes for 53 high cubes as well. And they had to be stored in a distinct way on an actual vessel because it can be, if it's too hot, right? It had to be in reefers. If a reefer malfunction and is stored near the sun, are we going to risk an explosion on the ship? So it had to be stored properly and had a great level of oversight while it was over the ocean. It will come here sometimes on the West Coast, sometimes on the East Coast. And then we would make sure that it went to our finished good manufacturing plants in the US so it can be mixed with the rest of the ingredients to make the finished good of the chemicals that we would buy out of the stores for our pools. So doing that is extremely fun because it was a puzzle every day. And I think that people that work on the domestic side think they don't need to know that. And you can be successful without knowing it. But if you want to scale your business, or if you're trying to take your business to the next level and you don't understand where these goods are coming from, and you don't understand why they're coming from there, what they have to go through to get from there to our country. If you're not understanding how to get to the airport or how to get to an ocean port to actually pick up goods, you're missing that. If you have many trucks that you can spare throughout the country over the years, throughout the year, that puts you in a position where you can now focus on seasonal goods, right? So oftentimes we hear truckers say it's slow season, so I'm gonna take the month off. It might just be slow season for where you're located. That does
They're
not
not.
mean the industry is slow, because international trade and global logistics is never slow, especially right now with all the congestion that we're having. We still have not caught up from Chinese New Year in February,
Oh
and
wow.
we still have not caught up from the Suez Canal where the
You
Evergreen
got
vessel was stuck. That
yep.
vessel is still not offloaded.
Wow. Wow.
That vessel still has a lot of freight still on it.
That's something else. We have questions pouring in, and so I'll let you answer this first one here because it was kind of along the lines of what you were just speaking of.
So the question is, can this freight forwarding be linked to government contracting? Absolutely. So I am a government contractor. I move military goods, Black Hawk helicopters. I move
Wow.
missile defense systems, anything that our military would need. We need freight forwarders to additional freight forwarders, especially minority freight forwarders, because they, I think we may already know, if we don't know, there are NACS codes that are distinctly identified as types of businesses under your LLC where additional funding is available, especially for women that are minority. So Black and brown women, please know that you are needed, and there are government contractors out there for freight forwarding. Let's be clear on terminology, because I think a lot of times people get terms mixed up between domestic and global logistics. So
Mhm.
when I say freight forwarding, I mean international freight forwarding. So that's how I'm answering the question. So there are NACS codes that are approved by the federal government for government contracting that is distinct to global logistics, distinct to domestic logistics, and definitely distinct to international trade. So that is a great area to specialize in and be prepared to bid on those contracts. Great question. Thank you for asking.
Awesome, awesome. And that's a lot of information. So kind of I guess, and you kind of in our conversation before we got on, you alluded to just, your background and kind of ramping up and how it may not be as complicated as it seems. So what are some of the things that if someone's considering this, what should they be also considering? So what type of person, if you could even say a type of person, would be a good fit?
Good question. So let me break that down, because first, it's important for everyone to understand whatever skill you have currently, that skill is interchangeable into this industry. So you are not starting from scratch, right? So if you feel like I'm 55 years old and I'm now got to go back to school, or I need a whole new career, that's not the case. I want you to understand whatever you've already mastered or obtained as a skill or a talent, that is already transferable. That, let's say you're customer service and you've been doing customer service for a long time. There are inside sales reps that work remotely from home from ocean carriers and air carriers that make good money, and they train you on the job. And a lot of them will certify you too, especially the big ocean carriers and the big air freight companies like Lufthansa or Delta or Maersk,
Hmm.
right? Those
Okay.
are some carriers, both air and ocean. So let's say, for instance, you have people in the room that may be interested that are dispatchers. I have a lot of dispatchers that take my class. And when they first take it, they have in their mind, they're very interested in one sector of this business, but they don't even know what else exists, right? So what I find is people that have a really good dispatch background and they've done very well at that, they have the skills that they can become what's called an NVOCC. I'm not sure if people here are familiar with that term.
That's a little something. I've seen it.
Right. I'll break it down. So it's an acronym, of course. So it stands for non-vessel operating common carrier. But what does that mean in layman terms, right? Because we're not going to walk around here and say that whole, right? So what that means is there are people that literally are certified to buy space on an aircraft and buy space on an ocean ship, on a vessel. And they can go and buy square footage. They can go and I say buy, I really mean like lease the space.
Mhm.
So let's say I am the importer or exporter and I'm having a hard time moving my freight. I can't find space on any ship. I keep getting rolled over in bookings. I keep getting canceled bookings, and I just cannot figure out how to actually get my freight on this vessel. You will have a relationship with an NVOCC, but if you're a dispatcher, you can easily become an NVOCC. And
Oh,
what you would do is you would go out and you would have the capacity, the capability of leasing this space for a long term. So let's say I'm an NVOCC. I'm going to work with big ocean carriers. I'm going to say, hey, I want this much square footage of the top of your ship, the bottom of your ship, and I want that for every ship over the next 6 months. You're going to go ahead and lease that space. What happens is importers and exporters need that space, but they didn't always forecast 6 to 7 months later. Now that space is all tied up. International freight forwarders has already got that space. Space has already been acquired by brokers, and now you cannot figure out how to get your cargo on this ship or on this aircraft. And now you can't meet production, you can't meet demand.
Wow.
You just can't get anything to move, right? And we know if something can't move,
Right.
that's money.
Money. Yep.
So what an NVO would do now is say, here I am. I got all the space you can possibly need. Tell me what you need. Now, the tricky part is for an import and export, that comes at a premium. So let's say we was only paying $100 for space. Just like that, it became $5,000.
Wow.
And the NVOCC at that point can have an upcharge of whatever it is they want because they leased the space. They already paid for this space, and now they're going to give their space to you.
Oh,
So
wow.
dispatchers do well in that area. Domestic freight brokers do well in that area. People that are interested in being in the international freight forwarding area, I always recommend that they first get some type of education before they walk in, because if you start from scratch, you'll start literally from scratch. And that'll make you start from scratch in regard to your compensation. But if you take some training before you get there, and you can get a reference from your trainer or from the class that you took, you can walk in at a different pay scale where you can probably be more like the senior inside sales rep. And that sales rep now is building relationships with NVOCCs, shippers, and carriers, and they're bridging the gap to make sure that there's always capacity where you can get your stuff on these vessels or on the air. And then international freight forwarders, just one tier above that, they're kind of more of the subject matter expert. They understand trade lanes. So to answer your question, there's so many different things you can do. I mean, that's only like this much, right?
Oh, wow.
This much. I want to bring up one more thing. I have a few students that have been doing medical billing, totally not in our industry, right? And I was shocked that they were in my class. I had 3 different people. And I was like, why would medical billers want to be in my class? I just wasn't sure, because I wanted to make sure that they left with what exactly they came for. So how do I make sure I change my material that you leave here with what exactly you needed? So I met with them separately. What exactly are you guys trying to get out of this? Because you don't have any logistics background at all. And they said, we're not really sure. We want work from home jobs. Some of them did, some of them didn't. And we want to see what else is out there. We want a new career. Since COVID, we feel like we need to know more than just our area, right? And guess what happened? So I didn't really know what exactly to guide them to. So I just taught my class. And what I teach is, how do you get something from someplace else? How does it get here? How do you level up to qualify for them? How do you prepare yourself for those jobs? What associations you can be on? What memberships are available to you? And how do you pay for them? Do you need a reference from me? Do you need me to help you in whatever capacity? But for this particular case, what ended up happening there, when you import something from another country and it comes into our country, it has to be classified. So classified means it needs an HTS number. And I'll get to your question in 1 second. It means that it needs an HTS number, right? A harmonized tariff schedule number. Tariff means taxes. Taxes means duty. If you go to Jamaica on vacation and you come back with white Hennessy, you're going to pay duty, right?
That white Hennessy too, right?
So my point though is, how do you think that happens? When something comes into the country, U.S. Customs wants to know what it is, where it came from, and they want to be taxed. They want that cargo to be taxed. Imagine if we were bringing in a car. Imagine how much duty and tax would have to go to customs. So the people that already were in my class that came from a healthcare background, they knew how to code our medical bills for CPT codes, ICD-9 codes that go on your medical claims. What they got to learn now was how to now code freight.
Wow.
To come into the country. And I never even saw the connection, right?
Wow.
So they came into my class, like, we want new careers. They didn't even know each other. They just, we want to know a new career. All 3 of them found themselves saying, wow, we can learn how to classify goods. The classification of the good determine how much duty is owed to customs.
Hmm.
There are people that are classifiers in their living room, midnight, Saturdays, they work their own schedule. If you're an entrepreneur and you own a 3PL, if you do back office, right? If
Hmm.
you're in this industry and logistics and you do insurance, if you do dispatch, brokering, if you want to add to that, hazmat would be a great certification. You can hazmat your company, hazmat certify other companies, sign their documents, and that's just an additional income. You can also classify goods and become a classifier, where now you can tell your customers or international freight forwarders, I have a team of people here that can classify goods and tell you what your duties are.
Wow. And
So
this is something you can do from home, like you were
yes.
saying? Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
anyone that's interested in knowing more about classification, if you go to my website is Agate. So Agate looks like Agate. People think it's Agate, but it's Agate Solutions USA.com, and go to the resource tab. I have a library there, and that library will give you the dictionary of international trade. It'll give you some basic dialogue terminology so that you can feel more comfortable when you're having these conversations, right? We know that's important. Every industry has their own language.
Hmm.
It'll also give you HTS classification. You have to learn how to do it. You can't just figure it out on your own. I'm going to tell you that right now, because you need to understand the regulations and how those numbers happen. But you can go there and get an idea of what it looks like. You can go to my website. You can see U.S. Customs regulations. You can see hazmat certifications. I list memberships and associations available to you as well. Some of them are free, and you can see I highlight them as free on my site. Anyone that needs help with that, you can DM me, find me on Facebook. You can email me. My email is info@agatesolutionsUSA.com, and I do respond.
She does. She does.
Preface just said proper classification is key in so many areas. So let's remember, classification is not just for the import in the US, it's for the import of goods throughout the world. So
Wow.
if you can learn how to import into this country, you can now make yourself an international trade expert in regard to classification, and let other countries and other importers and exporters know, hey, I can help you classify globally. It's a great skill. It's lucrative.
Wow.
There's a company currently right now, if anyone that's in the area of just maybe they know someone that's looking for a job and they want to work part-time, they already have one job, maybe they want a very flexible schedule. There is a company by the name of Vigilant, and it's spelled exact. It's no funny spelling to it. It's exactly Vigilant.
Mhm.
I worked for them part-time many years ago just to make some extra money on the side. I think that it had to be at least 8 years ago, maybe. And I think back then I was making somewhere between $25 and $30 an hour just classifying goods. And it was at my own pace. They would send me everything I needed, a list of everything that needs to be classified, what the products are. And my job was to now give them the codes. So anyone that's looking for that as just an extra thing to learn, I'm going to be teaching classification in a webinar later this month. It's on my website. It's called the Import Compliance Webinar. And I am teaching that in that course. And then I'm going to teach it again. Of course, I teach it in my spring, summer, fall courses, but I'm also going to do a in-person training in Atlanta. I have booked some space. I have not opened registration up, but it'll be on August 7th. Registration will be open the next week, where I'm actually going to teach you how to classify, what associations you want to be a member of, and then jobs in that area, or how to prepare you to do this as an entrepreneur, or how to do it independently. So that way, even if you want to work somewhere just to get some networking, you know how it is. Sometimes we want to work somewhere to get some experience, but I can help you take that experience to the next level and be able to do that on an entrepreneurship perspective.
Wow. Wow. And so you're going to have the August, what I was trying to type at the same time.
So on August 7th, you can
7th.
see it on my site. You can actually, I'm wrong. You can register now. I have not given the location. So you either can come in person, which would be in Atlanta in the Sandy Springs area, or you can join virtually over Zoom. So we'll be doing it both ways.
Wow.
I will
Nice.
only take 20 to 25 people in the room, because I want to make sure we have social distancing in that room. But otherwise, you are available to take that on the web, and we would do a Zoom link, and you'll have the recording available when that is over for another 4 weeks after the Zoom link. So that classification and import and how to import. So I'll teach you documentation, what forms have to go to customs, who can submit them, who needs to sign them. Because remember, there are also companies that their role is just documents. They handle import documents, export documents, and they file them through customs for you. So that's a whole other area that you can also leverage if you just wanted to tap in on a very low scale and then scale yourself upward. So I see we have another question. Let me see. Does the courses offered by the instructors include all of these topics for customs and international freight? I believe there is a summer session course. Yes. So let me break down what my courses provide. So I do a 4-week and I do a 6-week. In the 4-week session, which is summer, I made it 4 weeks. A lot of people just don't like to dedicate themselves to a lot of anything in the summer months. So my summer course is in June. I actually only have 5 seats available left for that. It's important to me not to take 200 people. I've done that before. I've taken classes where I had 100 people or close to it. And then what happens? You don't get that one-on-one time with me where you can actually ask the questions that you need. And the goal here is to make sure that I'm supporting a diversity in this industry. And if I make my population so large at one time, you just don't get the time with me that you need to actually put it into motion. And that's not the goal, right? I want you to leave my class, not just with material, but you stay with me forever. Let me explain how. So in the 6-week course, I'll explain the 6-week course and the 4-week course. They're not very different. I'm just condensing the material. The difference between the 4-week course and the 6-week course is the 6-week course comes with more people. So if you look on my website and go to About Us, you can see the instructors. Some instructors have other businesses and they just don't want their face plastered all over the place. They're very low key. They don't do social media. But for the most part, you can see my instructors. So in the first week, I teach you terminology. I take international trade, classification, bonded warehouses, foreign trade zones, because I bond warehouses as well. And certify them with the federal government, with customs. So what I do in the first week is take all this terminology and start breaking it down. Breaking it down. And then I give you a guide. Like, here, you can have this because I'm going to start talking like this from here on out.
Right.
And I have to, right? Because when you get into the industry and you start making phone calls and you no one's going to take you seriously. Immediately, they'll say, oh, they new in the industry. They don't know what they're talking about. So, and then the good part is we only speak like that the whole time. So even if you don't feel comfortable, you find yourself tripping up, but you're in a safe space. Do that with us, right? Do that with us. So the first week is all terminology. And I give people my full background. I mean, I gave you guys a little bit here, but I give it like all there. And then the second week, we have someone that specializes in global supply chain. So she's been in the industry for over 20 years, and she owns a company in supply chain management currently. So when we think that we work in the transportation industry, or we think we work in the logistics industry, we really don't. Let's really break down where we work. We are part of the global supply chain industry. And what does that include? That includes global logistics, domestic logistics, transportation, right? Warehousing and international trade, all 5 things. Right. So we're not just, I work in logistics or I just work in transportation. No, you are
part of a chain.
You are part of a supply chain, and everything that all of us do here is extremely important to keep the links going. Right. So in the second week, we only focus on supply chain. You have to understand why we care about warehouses. Right. What can a warehouse do? Where is this freight coming from? Where does it go? How does it happen? What are international banks? Where does your airway bill go? Where does the ocean bill of lading go? That's a legal document. People don't even understand what that document means. They just think they keep it in the truck.
Right.
But that document is powerful. So that's the second week. Also in the second week, I take all the domestic jobs, and there's a guy on my website. You guys can see him there. His name is Chad. He's been in the industry for over 20 years. He has a bachelor's degree in biology and a master's degree, I think, in chemistry, but he's been in supply chain forever, and he knows hazmat like the back of his hand. So he comes in and he talks about domestic positions, all types of domestic roles. So people think there's only brokerage. They think that it's only freight forward, brokerage and dispatch and drivers and owner operators and domestic. It's not true. It's so much more. So he
Wow.
breaks that down, what the qualifications are to even get into those areas, how to get there, what associations you can get, and what memberships you can be a part of, and what certifications. He breaks that down. The third week, we go into import. So I have a licensed customs broker in the US. She helps you understand every document required, the regulations required, and then she breaks that down all the way through. In the fourth week, I do international trade. So now you can understand the regulations that go behind your movements. If you're going to move freight, you should understand what law is making you do this or how you get to do this compliantly. That's the 4-week course. If you're in a 6-week course, I try to add in all types of new speakers. So in my 6-week course for the fall, I'm going to add insurance. I know a lot of people on the insurance side of this business, but they don't know air and they don't know ocean. But it's here, and I never see diversity, and I don't see diversity. So I bring in the person that I know that specializes in it. She's on the West Coast. She comes in and she teaches how to get your foot in the door on the insurance side for ocean and air freight. All right. Wow. And then I take someone that actually does hazmat in the area that I just explained that I do hazmat, where he's placarding. He oversees the documentation for air, ocean, rail, and DOT. And then he breaks that down. And then we have a big graduation ceremony. I pop champagne. And then we virtually walk down the aisle. It's a really fun event. And then I have an inspirational speaker that comes in and do a different topic each time to remind us all of how sometimes we get in our own way. And I think we all need that sometimes.
Absolutely.
What are the dates and times for the class? So I always do my classes on Monday. So if you took a fall class, a spring class, a summer class, it's always on Monday nights. And they're supposed to be from 7 to 8:30. They never end at 8:30 because even though I stop my material at 8:30, I stay till 9 and say, okay, what y'all need? And you may say, hey, this is happening with my company and I need your help with this piece. And instead of you having to do all these continuing consultations with me privately, if you're willing to have an open dialogue with other people that need help too, I just do a big Q&A, whatever you need help with. What is also important to know is in my course, I do a case study. So you pick a product in the beginning, any product you want from any country you want. Oh, wow. And throughout every class, we walk through how that got here. Did it go on a vessel? Did it go on the air? What was the square footage? What was the kilos? What's the pounds? What's the value? What international bank held your bill of lading? What are the Incoterms, right? What are the insurance terms? How did you pay for this freight? What port did it go into when it got here? Who picked it up? Who's the consignee? What documents did you give customs? So before you're done with the class, you have a complete case study.
Oh, wow.
Of the entire transaction that you can refer to for yourself at a later date. So it's always on Mondays. It's always 7 to 8:30. I would say 9-ish. As always, those dates and times. I do record the classes and I give everyone 4 weeks after the class is done. Because I know I have people in my class that are owner operators and truckers, so they need to be able to go back and watch these classes. So yes, the class is live. You get more out of the live because it's very interactive and people are talking and they networking with each other. And then I record them, of course, and then I send out the link and you have them for another month once the class is done.
Oh, wow. Okay.
What also is very good about my program is I do a free mentoring. It doesn't cost you anything as long as you were already a student. But I hand select those people. If you're serious, right? If you really on it, you're trying to do something in your business or independently, professionally grow. What I do is I select 10 to 15 people from each of my courses. So I only take 40 a year. So I just finished my spring course just a few weeks ago, and I took 15 people from that class. I'll take 10 to 15 in the summer, 10 to 15 in the fall. And then what I do is a mentoring roundtable. I bring back my instructors, subject matter experts. Remember, some of my instructors are in other countries. So they're doing this out the kindness of their heart to promote diversity in our industry, right? So I always tell people if you want to give them something to say thank you at the end, it's just like, we do like little gifts for them to say thank you, because sometimes they just want to be here to support the diversity of our industry. And we all come back, and then one by one, everybody gets the opportunity to see all the ones that come back. And then they offer you the mentoring that you need for the next step. But it's work. The mentoring program is not show up and listen to me talk. The mentoring program is think about your skills. Think about what you've already learned. Now let's start breaking down what you want to do with that. Because now you took my course, so you know what's available to you. Which area of everything I just taught you do you really want to be a part of? We take your current skills and we start transferring that over. If people that are really serious about that, I down go into my network of people and say, hey, I know someone that's really good in dispatch and they really want to become an NVOCC, or they want to be an international trade freight forwarder. I'm asking you to let them shadow you maybe a month as a courtesy to Agate Solutions. And then what I do for them in return is my most prominent students, when they looking for jobs, or they're looking to recruit, or if they're looking for people to be consults to them, I now pair them so they have people to retain within their companies as well.
Wow.
So I do a private Facebook group. So I don't have a lot of people in my group. It's not like, oh, I have 8,000 people. I'm very selective in who I let in the group, because the group needs to be people that are interested in leveraging their career in global logistics and international trade. And I don't want the conversation to be like, hey, I got a load going to Kentucky, because that's not what I do. Right. And I mean, nothing wrong with that. That's not what I'm doing. That's not the vision of Agate Solutions. So my group are people that are domestic, that are looking to get international, or people that are not in this industry at all, like teachers or people that are in medical billing that want a new career. Bring them on. And then I have a private networking guide. So everyone has their names and phone numbers and email address on these guides, and then they can contact each other for areas that they need in the industry. And I'm very private about that list. And in the Facebook group, everybody has open dialogue. We share articles. We share, did you see this canal is stuck? They got to ship.
Right? That made me go back to high school thinking, so let's come out. I know about that. Not really, but what in the world? Yeah. So.
Yeah. And then I go live in the group, and I just give like live one day, like, guess what happened in the industry? And I'll give industry updates, or I'll have guest speakers just come in our group. So it's a very small group, and I only allow my students in it.
Awesome. You guys, if you're not taking advantage of this, also, this is going to be available in the group. It's going to be shared on YouTube. So there's going to be opportunities to rewatch, this particular video. But Shaq is really well known. I mean, I found you on Instagram by way of Clubhouse, by way of just conversations. Every time, like I said, when I was researching about air and ship, they're like, have you talked to Shaq? I'm like, no, I know. Like who? And everything. And so as when I saw your name and I heard you come into that club house room that day, that's why I almost felt like, oh, she's real. And I went in, that's her. And so honestly, as soon as she got done talking, I was on, Instagram, and I reached out to her. And then I think it was my second time reaching out, because I think I just reached out and got your course information the first time. And then the second time I was like, I have a stupid question. Like, how many other languages I need? Just because that's what I was thinking international trade, all this global stuff meant. So I reached out, and you called that morning. You're like, what's your number? I said, today, right here, now. And she gave me the number. We had a phone conversation. And as if you can't tell, her energy, her heart, her passion, and her capacity, and just her knowledge of this field. I mean, she gave me my information. I signed up like really as we were talking, and I was just like, this is what I need and how I need it. So I mean, please don't let this opportunity go by and not kind of ask your questions, be sitting around thinking about it. As she said, as she was mentioning, there's so many different ways to integrate into the system, and this is that next level up. More than just domestic, it's truly able to be part of the entire, or a bigger piece, shall I say, of the supply chain, and not just think that domestic trucking, transportation, and even in your region is all there is to this. This is when we say $800 billion. I mean, add some other zeros at the end to really talk about the global impact of all this information. And I mean, I'm excited, and I'm not totally in it yet. I'm just like, whoa, you gotta really take advantage of these opportunities. So kind of as we get ready to close up, I would like for you, Shaq, to just talk about your upcoming the Expo in Atlanta, and just kind of to reiterate to our audience, just, I guess maybe some common obstacles you've heard when someone is starting a class or even getting discouraged. Because even though 4 weeks, I already know it's going to be an intense 4 weeks. It's not just you sign up and, as you said, be there passively. You have to already be doing some of the work before you even venture into this. So the expo, and then, some of the obstacles that people may face so they can know up front.
So the upcoming conference is actually an expo. I'm so used to conference, the word, right? So it is called the 2021 Logistics Broker Trucking Expo. It is being held by KBC Trucking. KBC is owned by Ken Cloud, and he owns a trucking school, amongst other things. I won't try to speak for him, but he is having a trucking expo, and he asked me to be his guest speaker and to teach a course or do some type of material on global logistics and international trade. So I'm still building that material. The date for that is June 26th. It will be in Sandy Springs, which is in the city of Atlanta. In order to register, I think he's still registering tickets. To register for that, you will go to kbctransporttraining.com. And again, it's on June 26th. There's other guest speakers as well. He's having 3PLs there. It's just going to be big. I met with him recently to do our photo shoot and promo for it. And I really got to sit down and really see the idea and the vision. So I will be there in person. I will be there with my team. I will be there with a lot to offer. So if you're there, feel free to, meet me. I hope that you can see that I'm a real person. When people DM me, if I could make time, I just call them. Well, she said that, right? I just make time.
It's real.
If I can find it in my day, if one of my conference calls end early, or if I'm like, I just call. What do you need? How can I help you? If it's not going to take me nowhere, I'm going to have to now book a whole planning session with you. I'm going to answer whatever you need right then and there, so you could just go get the ground running with whatever it is that you need for your business. So obstacles, people ask me that all the time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I only can tell you mine, right? But there are many. One of my biggest obstacles was lacking diversity in the industry, point blank, period. Not seeing anyone like me, sound like me, find another Shaquana. That was a lonely place. I often make the joke, but it's very real. I feel like I went from the block to the boardroom, and no one really opened the door for me. I had to always kind of juggernaut it down. It's very tiring. And right. And oftentimes we get the stigma of the strong woman, right? But sometimes you just want to have the same opportunity as everybody else. And you don't want to have to feel like you need Hulk Hogan strength, right? I just want to I want to do what everybody, I want the same opportunities that's offered to everyone else that has my skill, right? So that was a huge obstacle for me. I used to complain about it a lot. And then I realized that if I'm going to complain about it, I'm part of the problem. Wow. If I'm going to complain about it and I'm not going to do something about it, I'm part of the problem. Another obstacle for people that are interested in getting in this field is extremely expensive. I have never taken a class in this industry for less than maybe $3,000 to $5,000, including my certifications.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So my classes, I do my best to make them affordable, where I can still offer something to my instructors, right? And at least, keep up with overhead. We all know what it's like to just maintain your businesses. But I try to make my classes extremely affordable, especially with my time, because you're not just paying for a course, you're paying now for a lifetime membership to a whole network of people that's trying to build something greater. Other obstacles are not just the expense of educating yourself, but other obstacles are networking. People think they can just randomly hit somebody in their DM and that's going to land them, I don't know, the biggest book deal of their life. And I'm not saying that doesn't ever happen. I'm just saying it's an obstacle. There's a networking strategy that needs to be put in place where you're in the right memberships, the right associations to get yourself there. As an industry, an obstacle right now, I would say, is capacity, right? Most of us can totally agree with that. Finding truckers, finding equipment. I've never seen the industry this tight like it is currently.
Okay.
Yeah. Because we're moving freight from other countries. So I know what's coming into many ports within months before it's actually here. So we're forecasting. We know that we're producing goods in another country, and we know that in the next 6 months, I'm going to need them all in these places. So on the domestic side, if you position yourself that way, there's a lot of information available to you. It's not a secret. The U.S. Trade Administration, the Census Bureau, all this information is out there. If you do a historic look back and take some time to really think about and review the data, what came in January last year between January and March?
That makes sense.
What ports did they come in from? What type of commodities are there? Is it fruit and beverages? Is it firecrackers? Is it, I mean, I'm just making up things, right? If you see the trend is available. This is not secret information. And most times it's free. You can see where all this stuff is coming from and where it's going to be. So obstacles is another one, is capacity right now, making sure that, I can get freight moved. And I'm mostly on the international trade side, but I do, partner with other companies that are actually moving goods. And that's always a struggle, the capacity part of that. The last obstacle I would say is people find themselves the obstacle. We get in our own way, right? Sometimes we can talk ourselves down off of something, or we can negative talk ourselves. Sometimes I've had myself do that. Like, maybe I shouldn't teach this. Do people really want to learn this? And then I had 65 people in a class like, okay, wait a minute. Right. Or sometimes an obstacle for ourselves is trying to find the right network, find the right people to help support us. We have obstacles where social media presents one thing and we want to be part of these groups and connections and networks, but we all are running our own race, right? And your path and your pace is not the same as somebody else's. So I think it's important that we are reflective, that we sometimes are our own obstacle. We don't always believe in what it is that we're capable of doing, and we talk ourselves out of leveling up. And I've been a victim of that to my own self, and I've seen it done within my close friends and family members and other entrepreneurs. But once we know our power, right? Once you really know what you're capable of, and that's a whole nother level of power. And I'll leave you guys with this. And I say this all the time, and I truly mean it. If you're in a position of power, it's your responsibility to empower somebody else. And people think they're not in power. I don't have $1 million. I don't own 15 businesses. I don't have a fancy car. You are in a position of power every time you can offer somebody knowledge and opportunity.
There you go.
And if you're not giving that to somebody else, you're part of the problem, not just in our industry, but in our community.
Yes. That's good. That's good. Look, I got goosebumps off that one. That was good, because that's, oh my God, that's, I think that becomes a maturity thing, because at first it's that scarcity mentality. It's the, I had to do this, go get your own. But then you really start realizing that's such a backstabbing mentality to yourself, because what you end up doing is not wanting to learn more, and you're closing yourself off, and you coming across as being, uncooperative and stuff. I'm not saying to give away the whole bank, just sit there on the corner preaching. I'm not saying to do all that, but
they know, they'll say, Shaq just giving information. If I don't have time for Clubhouse, but not like as much as I would like to, because I actually enjoy those platforms. But when I'm there, I give, right? Anyone here that knows me, if you want to give a thumbs up, or if you ever been in a room with me or a Facebook Live with me, I am not a hoarder of information, because the more I give to somebody else, the more I free myself for the next thing and the next thing. There's things that I still want to go do. And as far as my classes for this year, one of my goals is I really would like to teach this in HBCUs, where I am having more of a direct link to minorities in this industry. And I would like to be on platforms where I am teaching this in greater lengths to reach a larger population of our community. So I would love to be an adjunct professor. And when those things happen, because they will, when those things happen in my career, I may not be as available for the attention I'm giving everybody one-on-one. So I'm dedicating 2021 to be my give back. And then after that, it's going to be go get it, girl. So yeah,
right. I was here. I was here, and you didn't take advantage. Well, thank you so much again for your time here, your energy, the information. I mean, if your mind is not already just going 3,000, I can't even put 100 miles an hour, 3,000 miles an hour. It should. And so just want to make sure I'm not missing anybody
Thank
else.
you, VK Freight Broker. I appreciate you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we will continue to support you in your efforts. I look personally forward to, being part of that class and just being at your feet with that information, because I mean, it's so much, and I just really feel like it's that light bulb moment. It's like it was right here the whole time, and I'm really excited about case studies. That was kind of, I had an HR background, and so case studies excited me, and I was like, oh, okay, because a case study, if you're not familiar, allows you to dive deeper into it because you're using scenarios. You're saying, if I'm going to follow this tube of lipstick on its logistic journey, this is kind of all the things I have to take into account. And because you have that little piece, you're having those conversations within your case study to solve for problems that happen when this is really used. So it's a tool for learning, and I mean, I just really like case studies. So but thank you again. Thank you for your time. So I'll share this. I'll share this directly with you as well, Shaq. And I mean, I can't say it enough. It was such a privilege to speak to you, to learn, and then just be here as well. So we have another student, another summer student coming up. So hey, see
Oh,
you in class as
hi.
well.
She's so excited about my summer class. Her enthusiasm is on 100. She DMs me. She's
Awesome.
like, she's so excited about the class. I am excited too because I have changed so much from my last class to offer you guys something very unique, especially since it's going to be a short time. So it will be compact. So just bring an open mind. People keep asking me how to prepare. Class starts soon. You didn't give us any prep. Don't prep. Just come in with
Okay.
an open mind. Come in with an open mind. Be familiar with the resource page on my site, though, because I
Okay.
use that a lot.
Okay.
And if you wanted to get my ebook to get ahead of the game, I do go over the ebook in my class. And the ebook is really cheap. It's like $15-$20.
Mhm.
So you can get the ebook to help you prepare for the class, because I'll go over it in detail in the first class. But I love the enthusiasm that all of you have. It reminds me that I'm not doing this in vain.
Definitely not. Definitely not. All right. Thank you again. And everyone have a safe, prosperous weekend. And again, you'll catch this video in replay in the group. Please tag us if you're watching it replay so we can be a little more sensitive in setting up times to make sure that you're getting the full advantage of having someone of Shaq's caliber be here to answer questions, give the information in real time. We don't want to just be watching this on video. All right, then. Have a blessed day, everyone. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks for having me.
All right. I have an outro and I'm trying to remember how to get to it. There we go. Thank you.